Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. The Honorable Professor Dr. Mashadi Said, M.Pd, and my dear colleagues of the Masters of English Education program at Indraprasta PGRI University. My name is Raden Suhendro, and today, for my final examination, I will be presenting a topic that's fundamental to our success as educator. The title is Motivating EFL Learners, Strategy to Keep Students Engaged. The subtitle, Psychological Insights and Pedagogical Approaches. This is the outline of my video presentation. The first, introduction. The second, the concept of motivation in SLA. The third, the L2 motivational self-system by Dörnyei. The fourth, intrinsic versus extrinsic motivations. The fifth, common barriers to students' engagement. Six, strategy. Seven, the teacher's influence. Eighth, cultivating a safe classroom environment. 9. Case study. And last, conclusion. As we see on the slide, motivation is often cited as the most complex variable in second language acquisition, or SLA. We can provide the best curriculum or the most expensive technology, but if the learner lacks the internal engine to move forward, the learning process simply stagnant. Today, we will explore how to ignite and sustain that engine. The concept of motivation in SLA. First, let's define our core concept. In the context of SLA, motivation is not a static trait. It's not something a student either has or doesn't have. Instead, it's a dynamic process that fluctuates over time. Our goal as teacher is to move students from a state uh, of passive presence to active investment, where they don't just attend class, but they are psychologically committed to their own progress. Next slide. We move on to the L2 motivational self system by Dörnyei. To understand this deeply, we refer to the framework by Zoltan Dörnyei. He suggests that motivation comes from three sources. The first, the ideal L2 self. This is the powerful vision of who the students want to become. For example, a global professional speaking fluent English. And the second, the out to L2 self. These are the external pressures, such as passing an exam or meeting parental expectations. The L2 learning experience. This is the immediate impact of our classroom. The atmosphere, the peers, and our teaching style as educators, this is the pillar we have the most control over. The next slide, intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Moving on, we must distinguish between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the gold standard where students learn because they genuinely enjoy the language. And extrinsic motivation, however, relies on outside reward like grades. Our strategic goal is to facilitate a shift, helping students find personal joy in English so they are no longer just catching a score on a test. Now let's move on the common barriers to students' engagement. However, we face significant barriers. Number one, language anxiety. The fear of sounding stupid or making mistakes. Number two, lack of relevance. It means when students feel the textbook has nothing to do with their real lives. Number three, fixed mindset. The self-limiting belief that I'm just not language person. Recognizing these barriers is the first step toward breaking them down. Now, let's talk about strategy. Based on Carol Dweck's research, we must foster a growth mindset. We should praise students' effort and strategy rather than their innate intelligence. Secondly, we must ensure text, text authenticity. Authenticity, we need to connect English to the while using real-world news, social media, and project-based learning. When a student uses English to solve a real problem, the motivation becomes self-sustaining. The second strategy is gamification and scaffolding. We also live in a digital era. Gamification using tools like Kahoot or quizzes is not just for fun, it lowers the affective filter and creates a flow state where students are so engaged they forget they are learning. Alongside this, we use scaffolding by breaking complex tasks into manageable steps. We provide small wins according to the zone of proximal development or ZPD. We must keep tasks challenging enough to be interesting but achievable enough to build confidence. And next, let's move on to the teacher's influence and learner autonomy. We cannot ignore our own role. Teacher rapport is essential. Enthusiasm is contagious. If you are bored, they will be bored. Furthermore, we must promote learner autonomy by giving students a choice, whether it's the topic of their essay or the format of their project. We give them ownership. A student who feels in control is a student who stay engaged. And now, we're talking about practical application. The Engage framework. To put all this into practice, I recommended the Engage framework. E for excite with a hook, N for negotiate the lesson flow, G for give them the necessary tools, apply through real tasks, G for guide with feed forward, or focusing on how to improve, not just what's wrong. And E, evaluate through reflection. In conclusion, motivation is the foundation of language success. Our strategy must be multifaceted: psychological, technological, and social. As a final truth, remember, we don't just teach English. We teach people to love process of communicating in English. Thank you very much for your attention. Once again, thank you to Professor Dr. Mashadi Said, M.Pd, for guidance throughout this semester. I hope this presentation meets the academic requirements for this course. Good luck, all my fellow students. Stay motivated and stay healthy. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.